This Ag Business Update brought to you by American Implement, indebted to the past, committed to the future. In a moment, Dr. Roger McEowen.
The cost of everything has gone up dramatically over the last 75 years. With one exception: keeping electricity affordable.
Wheatland Electric, delivering energy for life, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
S&S Trailer Sales, with 2 locations in Ness City, Kansas, is where everybody goes to buy or rent trailers. They feature the all-new, all-aluminum Mauer grain trailer with all of the electric options, the easy-to-load detached trailers, and a huge stock of header trailers. At the west location, you'll find bumper pulls, goosenecks, and oilfield specialty trailers, along with flat and utility beds for pickups. S&S Trailer Sales in Ness City and on the web, but remember, you do have to spell out the "and."
And time once again for our monthly Ag in the Courtroom, or Ag through the judicial system. And joining us is Roger McEowen, Dr. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. Roger, it's hard to believe it's already been another month.
Yeah, time flies.
Well, let's get right into it. I think this is a very timely topic we're going to spend both segments on. And we know there's been a lot of auctions and even more planned when it comes to farmland. So you kind of laid out some things to consider. If you're going to be in the market to be buying farmland, it's not just as simple as raising your hand and getting a high bid.
Well, we may think that that's the case, but there can be a lot of details that can unfortunately come to the surface that could create problems for us. And the whole point of what I recently wrote on was to kind of highlight those things, get people thinking about, what really is all involved about buying property, and how do I really make sure that I've gotten a good deal. It may look good, say for the purchase price, but there may be other things that can impact that value. And if I haven't squared those away, then my investment may not really turn out to be that good of a deal.
There's a lot of different things, from making sure things as simple as having a clear title to a bunch of reports that really do either add to that good deal or could cause an awful lot of headache.
Yeah, and some of this, in fact, a lot of it deals with regulatory aspects by federal and state government with respect to your property. And you want to make sure, and it's not that big of an issue in Kansas, but let me start with endangered species. You buy land in certain areas, and we have had this come up in Kansas before. We got certain types of species that will have their habitat on private property. And if that's the case under federal law as well as state law, that really restricts what you can do on that farm or ranch property. So we want to make sure, just check where the various species are at, what species are in Kansas that are listed as endangered or threatened, where's their habitat at. And there's a lot of public sources you can go to figure that out, and just kind of have an idea, okay, I'm close to these species, or this land might be in a habitat area. What impact's that going to have on my land use, if any? You want to check that. Now, Kansas doesn't have a lot of those species, but we get states like Florida and Texas and Tennessee and California. They have major issues with that. So that's one. And then on the other environmental side, and this is more of an issue, maybe that farmland you're buying's got a ravine on it, and in years past, people dump stuff in there, old washing machines, cars, tractors, whatever. I've seen it all. And maybe there's that old dump site on the property. Well, that can perhaps create issues with respect to the disposal of hazardous waste. You want to make sure you don't get into trouble with that.
Well, I think you make note, if you get the government involved, it could be a very long process.
Right. I actually had a case, Ken, involving USDA and RCS, and this it spent 24 years in the court system after going through the regulatory system all the way to the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, and then back on remand to the agency, 3 contempt citations against the Secretary of Agriculture. What a mess. And by the time we were all done with that, the landowners had died.
Wow. Wow. Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law is joining us. Let's take a break, come back. Lots more to talk about, some things to consider. If you to purchasing some farm ground. Back with more in just a moment.
Wolfter Construction and Irrigation has been around a long time, and a lot of folks have trusted them to design, build, and service all sizes of commercial and on-farm storage for grain and equipment. Wolfter is also known for their outstanding irrigation division, where they stock a complete selection of nozzles, regulators, drops, gear drives, electrical, and structure components. Looking for an electric motor? Wolfter has a large selection in single and three-phase. Next time, reach out to the pros who have decades of experience at taking care of business the right way. Wolfter Construction and Irrigation.
Would you like to see something done about high gas prices and low unemployment? Western Place Energy in Campus, Kansas is doing something about it. They're a proud part of Growth Energy, America's ethanol supporters, and they employ 38 people and will be adding more following the expansion. Ethanol fuel not only reduces the cost of regular gasoline, it's good for the environment and keeps money right here in the United States while supporting local rural jobs. Western Plains Energy, doing something for the future.
And joining us, Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law, this month's segment of kind of Ag in the Courtroom. And we're talking about some considerations if you might be in the market to maybe expand your operation or get in and buy some farmland. Well, Dr. McEowen, we've kind of got things started, but let's talk about some other considerations. And one that maybe sometime we don't think much about, but probably should. Are there existing arrangements? Are there existing leases on that ground?
Yeah, that's a real big issue, Ken. A lot of farm ground or ranch land is leased, and there may be that tenant that's out there. And in Kansas, of course, when land changes hands, that doesn't automatically sever that lease relationship. You buy subject to any existing lease, unless there's an agreement in writing where the seller and the tenant have executed an agreement that says if this land sells, then the lease terminates. That's pretty rare. So you're going to take subject to that existing lease. Now, you got to figure out who that tenant is, if there's one out there. And I've had a situation come up just this past year where there was an undisclosed tenant that the seller didn't even know existed. They knew that they were dealing with this particular tenant, but they did not know that the tenant had also designated his 90-some-year-old mother as a co-tenant for purposes of federal farm program payments. Now, whether that's legitimate or not, it's a different story. But then she claimed she didn't get notice when the land changed hands. Therefore, the lease would continue for another year. It was an oral situation. And the seller said, well, I don't know who this person was. The buyer, where'd this person come from? So, talk to people, check those records, check what records are public. What will FSA disclose to you? We'll ask the seller to check the FSA records to make sure that we know who we are dealing with in that situation. Seems weird, but stuff comes up.
Right. And it's also make sure you get the right signatures. I mean, whether they be leasee or also the ownership, make sure everybody signs off.
That's right. Particularly spouses too, if there's any type of spousal interest.
All right, a couple other things. One, a lot of counties are doing planning, and that might make a big situation, depending on really where you are around Kansas. We continue to hear more counties doing some of that planning and zoning.
Yeah, what are the plans associated with property that's near your property that you're buying, even if it's not your property that you're purchasing? Are there plans for solar panels to be put up? Are there plans for wind turbines to be put up? Is there a plan in place to expand the road that might take some of your farm property away that you're now going to be paying for? Of course, if that's the case, the government has to compensate you for it if it's a taking. But how's that going to impact your plans for your farming or ranching operation? So those are things you want to check. County commissioner, county board of supervisor meeting minutes. What are they talking about? What's been in the news in the local paper? And, actually, it seems funny, but if you just spend some time in the community, go to the local cafe, have breakfast there and chat with people, you're going to learn a lot of stuff.
That is true. Also, before we run out of time, you need to do that physical inspection too. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to do that, but that's important. So Dr. McEowen, folks want to learn more about these things. They can read all about it in your blog and other things that you have thoughts on, or keep us up to date on. How can they gain that?
You can access my blog from the homepage of my website, and that's washburnlaw.edu, and then /WALTR.
All right. Dr. McEowen, always great to talk with you. We'll look forward to it next month.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law has joined us. We'll have more in just a moment.
When you've had a best friend for over 50 years, you develop a trust. And the Scott Co-op has been a trusted rural friend since 1957. A co-op keeps money in the area, doing business for and with their members. And that helps keep their hometown thriving with keeping money in the community. Scott Co-op is not just an elevator. It's the rural way of doing business. So, when you see an elevator, remember your friends at Scott Co-op.
1030 KBUF has ag information every day. Ag news, market information, and weather forecasts to help you make good decisions for your farm or ranch. You can also listen to any Southwind broadcasting station online at westernkansasnews.com. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching.